Hello, now let's continue this. So we created our object, we called it student1 using the BMI class, and here we're using the overload constructor to pass in our three parameters, our three variables that we created as parameters. So, well, that's really nice, but what if we want to print the information? We want to be able to get that information. Well, what we use are called accessor functions to retrieve each of them individually. So, excuse me. So let's go into our header file and, well, let's create our accessors. So, oh yeah, before I do that, I forgot. I need to introduce you to something called the Destructor. So allow me to do that first, because that's typically the third thing that you'll create. So before we go into the accessor functions, the Destructor, now what that does is once you're done using an object, basically meaning that once you've left the function of which the object was created, it needs to be destroyed out of memory. All variables work this way. It doesn't really work now. It does, because we're actually creating our object inside of our main function. So it's not until we are done executing the function, our entire program will actually become destroyed. But you know, in the future, when we start doing this inside of separate functions, creating objects, then it will be at that point when we leave those functions and go back to our main will the destructor be more useful. But you still need them. So I'm sorry about that. I forgot about this guy. So in order to create the destructor, all you do is, before you type the name of the class, put a little tilde sound in front of that. And that's right next to your 1, to the left of the 1 on your keyboard. Then we called it BMI. And that's it. That's our destructor. So let's go into our BMI.cpp and actually write the definition for it. So all we do is type out BMI, then our scope resolution, and then our destructor. And we'll leave it empty like this. So we won't put any code in there, so don't worry. So now let's go to our accessor functions, or back to our BMI.h, our header file, to write out what are called our accessor functions. So what are our accessor functions going to do? Well, basically, they're just going to return our member variables. Now, of course, we can only return one value at a time, so we're going to be making 3 accessor functions, one for each of our member variables. So, since they're returning something, is it going to be a void function? No, because it's, well, returning something. So our first one will be for the name. So it will be of data type string. And for our accessor functions, we typically call them whatever it's doing with the word get in the front. So usually we'll put get for our accessor functions because that's what we're getting information. So for this one, we'll call it get name. And there's no parameters. And another thing that you have to remember, it's not required but strongly recommended in good coding practice, is that if you have a function that's not going to be modifying any of the member variables inside of a class, is to put the const keyword right in front. So that's all this guy's going to do. So this is our accessor function. So since it's not going to be modifying any of our member variables, so it's not going to be modifying new name, all it's going to do is return it. This is all we have to do. So we have no parameters, but because we usually do this, let's just type out get name and what it does. Returns name of patient. There we go. And that's all it does. So I'm actually going to tab this since I want the titles to be like that and all the others to be indented. So you'll see it looks nicer. So now let's go in here and actually implement the code. Get the definition down. So BMI : our scope resolution and get name. Okay, so we've usually been doing this. Let's talk about get name, but where does all the void, or this isn't void, this is a string. Where does the string and the const, where does all that come into play? Well, actually, before you type out BMI, you have to actually type out the data type, whether it's void or not. So we'll actually be typing out string first, then BMI, then our scope resolution, then the get name with no parameters as a constant. And, well, there we go. And all this is going to do is return new name. And that's it. That's all this accessor does. So let's create the other two a little quicker. So the next one's going to be int get height, and that's going to be a constant, and it's called get height returns height of patient. There we go. And then let's actually make the other one here. Double get weights and constants, and get weights returns weights of patient. And yeah, I thought I missed the P there. So did I spell that right? It looks like I did. So let's actually put down the definitions for these ones as well. So let's go down here, and so the first one was an integer, BMI, get height, and there was a constant, and all it's going to do is return new heights. There we go. And then our last one is a double BMI get weights, and all that's going to do is return new weights. Okay, so whoops. Okay, so now we created our 3 accessor functions, so now we can retrieve the member variables of which we set using the overloaded constructor. So, we're going to be passing in the 3 pieces of information, setting our member variables equal to those informations, then we can retrieve them using these functions. So how do we actually use these functions in our main.cpp? Well, let's figure that out. So first I'm going to write out an end line, then I'll have it print, what should I have it print? Name, colon, I'll have it say patient name. So patient name, and okay, so now in order to access one of the, any member variable or any of the functions basically inside of this object, just type out the name of the object, which is student1, and then a dot. Then notice how we can see all of our constructors, functions, and all that stuff. Well, actually we can see our constructor, but we can see our destructor, and we can see our accessor functions and our variables. But notice when I fill this out with one of the variables, notice how it says BMI new height, blah 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 blah, is inaccessible. And that's where, again, encapsulation comes into play, because it's privatized, it's private, so that keeps us from being able to modify it outside of the class. So that's very important. So we can't use that. So in order to get name, we want to do get name first. Just call get name like that, and that's going to do it for us. Then I'll have an end line, and what's the next thing that should be printed? Their heights, colon, and then I'll have it say patient underscore 1 dot, student, not patient, dot get height. And next will be their weights, colon, and then we'll type in student underscore 1 dot get weights, and I'll have another end line just in case. So there we go. So now let's print this and see if this all works. So I'll hit Control F5. I keep forgetting that which one. And let's see this works. So enter your name, Adam. Enter your height, I'll say 70 inches. Enter your weight in pounds, I'll say 135. And then there it is. Patient name is Adam. The weight is 70, or height is 70. Oh my goodness, my weight's not 70. Weight's 135. So that all worked out. So that's really, really cool. You gotta admit, that's really cool. If this is making sense to you so far, which I really hope it is, because that's the point in this, oh my goodness. This is gonna make your programming experience much easier, being able to do this. But anyways, so that's using your overloaded constructor. But what if you want to use your default constructor? There are times in which you'll want to use your default constructor, I'll go back in this one, as opposed to your overloaded constructor. And maybe you would like to change them later. So how do you do this? So first of all, I'm going to teach you a cool new thing that I don't think I've shown you before, and that's how to comment out code at once. So I want to actually comment all this out. You know, I'm going to comment all this out. So in order to do that, I believe it's up here. Comments. So comment right here. There we go. And it provided a multi-line comment for us. So that's really, really cool. So now that that's all commented out, let's create a new student. Student. So BMI, and I'll call it student 2. And the reason why I commented this out, so I don't have to fill out the information later. Or so that this isn't printed. I don't want this to be printed yet. So now let's use our default constructor there. And what if we would like to set it to whatever we typed in? Well, we can create what are called mutator functions. So let's go back into our header file and learn how to create our mutator functions. And basically, our mutator functions are the functions that will allow us to edit each of these member variables one at a time. So, is this going to be returning a value? No, because we're still going to be accessing them using the access functions, the accessor functions. So, since it's not, we're going to call it void, and then we're going to use, instead of the get, we'll throw set instead. So set name, and since we are we going to be using the const modifier here on these ones? No, because we're going to be modifying the member variables in these mutator functions. So this time we won't use the const. But we're going to need a parameter. And the easiest way to remember about these mutator functions is that they kind of act like your overloaded constructor, except they only modify one member variable at a time. So this one's set name, so all it's going to do is change the name. So that's all it's going to do. So I'll click tab and I'll call it set name of patient, and I'll have it say at param string name of patient. There we go. So let's now go inside of our bmi.cpp and implement this code. So it was a void, so I'll use the void, then bmi, : and it was set name way down here. And it was called string, and I'll still call it name, because I still call them name, height, and weight up here, so same thing. And, well, all this function is going to do is that our member variable, new name, equal to the name that we passed in as a parameter. So that's all it does. So it's very, very simple. So I'll go back to the header file, and let's do the other two now. So void set height, and it's going to be an integer, and that's it. Set height, sets height of patient, and at param int height of patient. There we go. So let me do the other one now too. So just get that over with. So void, and that would be set weight, and that's going to be a double. We'll do a colon, and set weights. Sets weight for patient, and then down here I'll go at param, and that's going to be a double weight of patient. There we go. So I'll click save, and now go back in here and do those now. Oh my goodness, I know this is so tiring. Void bmi. I don't want to cut this out and just all of a sudden have it done, because you might be doing this with me. So, and I don't like tutorials when they just suddenly cut something out and they're way ahead, and it's like, oh wait a minute, I'm still trying to catch up. I don't like that, because then it rushes and you have to pause the video and stuff. So, oh, height, my bad. And yeah, so I'm not going to do that. I'd rather keep this video at this length. So this video is going to be long. I'm not going to do another part. I'm just going to keep it long. So set weight is going to be this one. So that's going to be double weight, and new weight is equal to weight. There we go. So there we go. Now we have all three of our mutator functions. So let's go back into here, and well, we have them all. So how do we use them? Well, basically, we can go back into our main CPP, and in order to use them, let's just type out students underscore 2 dot, and then now we can access our sets. So now let's go set name, and then we can set it equal to the name variable. So we're going to pass the name in as the parameter, and oh, not a semicolon there. So when you do this, Oh, semicolon. So when you do this, basically it's going to go into your header file. It's going to find your mutator set name, and it's going to know that's a string variable. So then it's going to find it in your bmi.cpp. There it is. Pass in what we typed in, that's our parameter, and set our member variable equal to whatever we passed in, the name. So that's all it's doing. So let's do the other two now. Dot set height, and we're going to be passing in the height, and students dot set weights, and we're going to be passing the weight. So there we go. So now I'm going to copy this right here. I'm going to copy and paste it down here, but this time I'm going to change this to student 2. Because notice how I'm still having to use the accessor functions. You still need to use the accessor functions in order to return them. But the mutator functions just to change the member variables. So let's see how this works. So I'll type in, I don't know, Jill, she's, I don't know, 5'7" or something, and I don't know, 130, I'm just guessing. And there we go, see, it all worked. So we were able to set those member variables and then access them, return them. So that's really, really cool. So the last thing I'd probably like to show you is just how to make an extra function inside of your class. And this last one will be what will actually calculate the BMI. And that's pretty much it with this tutorial. So I guess you could stop now, but there's still some little things I'd like to show you, so please don't leave yet. So the last one I'd like to show you is the one that will actually return your BMI. So since that's returning a number for us, we will actually be returning a double, aren't we? An actual data type. Then we can call it calculate BMI. And are we going to need parameters for this one? No. And the reason why we don't need parameters for this is because we're going to be using those member variables of which we set the values to. And that's why we really use member variables, is so we can use them in calculations in functions such as this one. But yeah, so we can just use these, so we don't have to actually pass in parameters. So then I'll just call this calculate BMI, calculates BMI of patient. I know it's student, but I'm thinking of my C# tutorial. I like this example. Tell me in the comments if this example was good for you, if it was adequate, if it helped you. Because I didn't want to do something that's too complicated. I just want to use 3 different data types, and I thought this is a good one. Okay, so double calculate BMI, and it's going to return a double. So, oh, I didn't do @returns. Oh, look at that! I didn't do @returns for these ones. Sorry about that. Oh well. So now I'll go back in here and sorry. And so it's going to be a double BMI scope resolution. Oh wait, calculate BMI is up there. And there we go. So the formula for calculating BMI is basically your weight, the quantity of your weight times 703. So we can just directly type in return. So it's going to be your weight. So it's going to be new weight. That's the member variable, right? Yeah, new weight. So that they all have the new. So new weight times 703, and then divided by your height squared. So new height times new height. There we go. So basically it's just going to return your BMI and a semicolon at the end. So that's all it does. So let's actually implement the code in our main.cpp. So let's actually get rid of the semicolon and add one more thing down here. And that's going to be BMI colon space. And then we'll have it print out student2 dot calculate BMI. So, and then end line. And there's one more thing I'd like to do just so I don't have to keep you waiting. And basically I'm going to uncomment this. So I think this is the uncomment. Yep. There we go. So now we're going to do student1 and you know what? I'm going to do all this again. So I'm going to copy all of this. Copy, and I know it's bad programming practice. Paste. And basically now it's going to change the name, height, and weight for the second person. So that should all work out for us. cout and line, because I'm not quite too sure. And it's going to do all of that for us. Actually, I don't think I need that there. I think I would like it to be up here. Cout and line. There we go. Okay, so now I have all of that. So now we're going to be printing in the information for student 1. We'll pass it in. Then it'll print it. Then we'll do student 2 here. We're going to change the name, height, and weight and pass them in there. And then I would actually like to access something here. So I'd like to go cout and line, and I would like to print student 1 dot get name. Let's just get the name and line, and you'll see why I'm doing this. Oh, whoops. Because I don't want this tutorial to go on too long, so I just want it to. I just like to do both of these at once. So student 1 name. So I think this should do everything I want it to. So I'll click save, and because I want to show you the core of programming, object-oriented programming right here. So enter your name. So here I'll go Bob. I don't know. He's 5'8" or something, and his weight is 145. So I printed his stuff out, his name, height, and weight. Then for the second person, I don't know. Let's throw me in. Adam, 70, 135, and there we go. So this is what I want to show you. Okay, so now I typed in Adam 70, 135, and it all worked. Notice how the BMI worked. I'm actually a little bit above the line for underweight, so yay! I'm not too slim. I'm really young too. I still have a high metabolism, and it doesn't matter how much I eat. So I'll gain weight when I'm older. I don't know. But this is what I really wanted to show you, was not the BMI function working, but I wanted to show you how it said student 1 name is Bob. But looking at this, notice how right here, when we went student 2 dot set name and we passed in whatever we typed in, that was, oh, where did it all go? There you go. I typed in Adam right there. And then notice right here when I said student 2 dot get name, it printed Adam right here for us. So when we went down here, when it went student 1 dot get name, since we changed that member variable, the new name, using the set name, why did this one still print Bob? Well, that's because each of our member variables will hold the values that we give it only for that one object. So because we're using a different object, student 2, it has its own information. So we can still go back to other objects and access their information. So that's really the best and most sweet part of object-oriented programming, is just that. So I hope this example was helpful for you. This is probably the hardest thing I will be doing in level 1. And the next thing that we're going to be doing is how to create stuff like vectors of objects. Instead of vectors of integers, we'll probably be doing like vectors of objects. We'll be, passing them into functions and whatnot. But this by itself is pretty much the hardest thing. So I really hope this was helpful for you. And, well, I'll see you next time.